Go ahead.
Thank you.
Static.
We're gonna call the Finance Committee meeting to order. Appreciate everybody being here. First item of business is just looking over the minutes from the February the 11th committee meeting. Look over those and see that we don't need any changes. We can get a motion to approve those.
There's Dr. Craddock. He's on. Okay.
Thank you.
So
Got a motion. There, second. Second by Michael. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Right, carries. We do have these financials, and as you are looking through that, from the balance sheet standpoint, the contract labor cost and the rent, typical, from a cash standpoint, interest. Then, we had the prepaid expenses, the accounts payable. You looked at one of the things that, I don't know if I've seen that $85 fee before. But maybe I have, maybe it's been there and I didn't pay too much attention to it.
No.
It's been on there, but
Has it?
Stockyard,
Mhm.
yeah, I don't think Republic charges us that, but they do. And I think it's gone up to 95, so we gonna have a conversation about that.
Um,
It's a flat fee for processing the ACHs and all the banking stuff we do. But it's always been on there. I asked about it from the beginning myself.
Everybody's looking through these expenses and does anybody have any questions? Yes, sir.
On the new system, or are they still on?
I think the old system, still the old system. Yeah, old system.
Yeah, so I talked to Caleb and we had a great conversation with Caleb, and we're starting to do testing around April 1st. And then we should have the system open or up for us to start doing financials in May. So during the April financials in May 1st. It's like the go live day, so.
Anybody else have any other questions about that, or anybody have any questions about any of the expenses or anything? If we don't have that, we just need a motion to accept the February financials.
Make a motion that we accept the February financial.
Thank you. I just need a second.
A second.
You? Any other discussion? All in favor? I hear you, Doug.
I thought because I second, I have to say aye.
Oh, okay, I thought, I just want to make sure. Thank you. All right. Now, man, I guess this is kind of what we all been waiting for, man. It's a very exciting day to really get some proposals and start to really do what we were put in place to do. So, let's look at some of these.
Well, before we go into the funding requests, our friends are here from Quote.
Okay.
Do you want to go ahead and get updates?
Well, yeah. Oh, I didn't know if you really had too much of you got any updates for us?
So yeah, Rita and I and the team, we met with Blackbaud, and that's going well. We expect them all the information they're needed. They're expecting to go live in May. We're expecting to start testing it in April. And I think from the conversation we had, Rita, with Caleb, I think it's going to be a lot of detail that's going to be useful for you guys as far as reporting. We're setting up ways to report via different locations, so the 9 neighborhoods. We'll be able to report on those separately if we want to report on it all together in a summary. So I think the level of detail that we're going to have would be really good, and you got to be what we have. So
Thank you. Any other questions?
And then
No question. Chip, I know you talked to, you have any good news or what kind of news you got for?
Good news, I spoke to Gary Morris, which I promised those three. So, I don't know if you picked up anything else from,
No.
but they are working on the numbers, the tip numbers, as you all, the team met, Laura and myself, and Amy met with them 3 weeks ago now. Yeah.
3 weeks ago.
Yep, and so they are not finished with it, and they are trying to work through it. And, but they understand the importance to the community of having the information. And,
Any timetable or just we work?
no, he doesn't have a timetable. He will want to, you all has the information. I said I need a little bit of a why. It's taking some time, and they're going through a software conversion. It's very difficult for them right now. Major. He said
Yeah,
his-
they're basically, their entire system internally is down
Yeah,
for
and so,
this
yeah.
conversion.
so, he says it's a big project in his entire career there. It's very taxing. And so, but they.
But to that point, they did say even like tax refunds or state, all that's kind of on hold
Right.
from a standpoint. So I mean, there is something going on now. Do I still want the number? Yeah.
Yes.
But they're not making that up,
Yeah, for those who aren't familiar, what they are installing is a full service. Like if you create an entity through the Secretary of State and then you connect over to create your tax ID and all of that, it is replacing all of that. And their internal income tax, all of their tax tracking, business entity creation, tax ID number, assigning, soup to nuts. That's why they're completely down. So it is a major, major undertaking.
Yeah. So, that and the deal still stands, that the game plan is they need to come back to the finance committee and speak to the finance committee and then speak to the board too. So all the same deals in place as when we got them 3 weeks ago. One little tip that he shared with me that, neither here nor there yet, but I think I learned that Christmas tree, terminology from you, Amy, but there's always a bill at the end of these sessions that they can tack things on to.
It got introduced in House A&R this morning. It's a
Yes.
107-page bill that didn't drastically change, but revenue altogether, but it has multiple changes in certain tax programs.
Including TIF. So like, and not
It didn't
necessarily.
affect
this one.
us. I've already looked at it. It didn't
Correct,
affect
not this
us.
one, but the arena TIF, or, and that was sort of known, but point being, the staff that would work on your numbers is now over here working on this. So that's, you see what I'm saying? So it's just.
Same people.
Right. Same people. That's the, I'm just glad I talked to him. I'm not coming in here
thank you.
blind.
Well, we definitely appreciate it.
that's good.
Reaching out.
Yes, ma'am. I wasn't coming in. Rats.
You too.
We appreciate that. Now, Travis, man, I think, Laura, like I said, man, this is exciting to me. I
Yeah.
mean, this is what we're here to do, and we got, some proposals that we're gonna look at, and, on the front end, I know you've worked very hard on these, so front end, I wanna say thank you for that, and, just excited and really ready, at this point.
Absolutely. We thank you all for the opportunity to be of service as always. We appreciate this, just being a part of moving the needle. Before we go into the actual proposals, I just want to give a quick update, a quick summary of where we're at. Since the last meeting, there's been 3 more applicants that have come through. So there's a total of 20 now, including one that came today. If you could look at the total. So, and as of now, the loan request amount is over $10 million. Grant is over $22 million for a total of $32 million with a difference of $6 million. So, and this CRM information is available in the shared folder for all of you that have requested access. Anyone that hasn't and would like access, please just let us know and we'll be happy to grant that. So.
But if we funded all those, be bankrupt.
Yeah. Travis, before you get started, Dr. Craddock, I just want to make sure everybody can hear. Can you hear? Okay. Dr. Craddock? Dr. Gabe, can you hear?
Yes, I can hear.
Thank you. Okay, just want to make sure, test that.
Sorry about that. Yep, I can hear you though.
That's okay.
So the first candidate, funding candidate that we'll talk about is the Delta Foundation, which is developing education, educated leaders through athletics. So Delta was founded in, it's been in the building since 2019 by Wes Hinton. Wes Hinton has 10 years of experience as a JCPS teacher. They've been in the building since 2019. Last year, they purchased it at 2508 Portland Avenue. It's a 35,000 square foot building. Go ahead and go down. So the purpose of some of their key goals is finalizing renovations to enhance facility functionality and aesthetics appeal, enhancing the organization's capacity to serve more students annually and provide a sustainable wage for employees, expanding staffing to include 3 full-time and 3 part-time employees, as well as partnering with 10 impactful nonprofits. Of course, this amount that they're requesting won't cover all of this. They're requesting a $50,000 grant. Glasses only work good close up. So they're requesting a $50,000 grant, and you can scroll down some. So this is a extremely impactful organization. They have currently 5 nonprofits housed within the same facility with them, along with 4 for-profit entities. Their goal is to reach 10, so they've already filled up 9. Those nonprofits are based there in their facility and doing work in the West End. You can read a little bit more about them. Scroll down. Their after-school program is currently assisting just almost 10 middle schools: Elementary, Foster Elementary, Roosevelt Perry Elementary, Western Middle, Grace James Middle, Hudson Middle, and Johnson Middle. So these kids go there after school. They participate in sports, but also they get tutoring there. They get mentorship there. They get mindfulness sessions there. And the thing is that they're not just taking the star basketball, football players. They're taking kids that are at risk, that don't have the next level of, but if they're steady involved in athletics, it's been shown that this mentorship can be accompanied with that very easily. So more than 80% of the hoops and homework participants increase their GPA between 0.5 and 1.5 points, increasing school attendance from 79 to 94%, and a decrease in school suspensions from 37 to 9 out of the children that they're currently. The programs that they have in place are books and basketball, free program for JCPS elementary students offering weekly 30-minute tutoring sessions. Hoops and Homeworks is again after school from ages 7 to 14, offering homework help. Summer camp, which is an 8-week free camp, and that is huge. A lot of people really can't afford to send their children to camps or daycares or anything like that during the summertime while they continue to work. This is a free program right in the community and servicing all those middle schools. Trade and technical programs, career shadowing and apprentice in constructions, West Louisville Girls Volleyball League. So as you see, there's several programs housed there as well. There's several partners that they have in place that are working with them. Some of the community partners, A1 All-Stars, Community Catholic, Community Connections, Dare to Care, Evolve 502, Hand in Hand Ministries, JCPS, MPD, Metro United Way. Some of their funders are Brown and Foreman, Frail, Creation Gardens, Evolve 502, Genes Foundation, Humana, LG&E, and Metro United Way. Down, Delta Foundation, thus far, of this 35,000 square foot facility, they've actually completed renovation, some of the renovations already. a new HVAC system. They put a new floor into the gym. They replaced some windows. They still have more windows that they need to replace. They had to replace the windows in the cafeteria area so they can pass their inspection because they're going to be looking to actually help small catering companies, small food truck companies that can use this area as a commissary as well. Other improvements may have been installed Wi-Fi throughout the building, taking down damaged fence and batting cages. Delta is also completing landscape, increase the aesthetics of the building as well. What they want to do with the grant, if provided that grant, would be to complete the window installation, complete flooring throughout, as well as the exterior painting. The exterior painting is huge because some of the old signage is on the building. So they want to rebrand that building so everyone knows that this is now Delta and it is a safe place for these students when they get out of school to come and actually report into. You can just go ahead and scroll up. This is a few of the pictures that we took while there, and while there, I mean, you can feel in this place the work that they're doing. That one came out a little blurry. We need to scroll that one down. So these are some of the rooms that they have, some of the classrooms. As you see, they've done some renovation. This is the mindful wellness room here. They have some, scroll down again, some of the other classrooms. This is the cafeteria that I just mentioned. Some meeting rooms that they can actually meet in and be mentored in, and they also do mentoring right inside the gym. So they received their quote, the total quote for the project, which is subtotaled at the total is $84,000. They actually have a donor in place that's willing to subsidize $40,000 of that. So this $50,000, if they were to be granted, it would fill that gap and they could get all this work done. So more, as you see, it can all be completed by May 2025. And flip over, you all have a handout with their finances as well. So the finances, these are just some of their P&Ls and that type of thing. Their 990 forms and all of that. Pro will be the only ones that will receive those documents. Inside of the folders, shared folders that you all will have access to, you will be able to see these documents. And just for policy issues and make sure that we're controlling sensitive documentation, Pro will be, the accounting firm will be the only ones that actually have full access to the financials of not only this entity, but the small business, traditional enterprise as well. That's to ensure those in the community that their financial and sensitive information is being controlled. Any questions about Delta? I'm gonna say yes.
You said they're like in the middle of renovations. Do you know,
Yeah.
are they already contracted with that contractor that is for the?
Yes, the contractor actually did some of the windows already.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're just needed a little more funding to fill this gap and they can be done before summer. So when the actual summer camp starts, it'll have a whole new look to it.
Mike, what do you know about these folks?
So I've known West for couple of years. They've been, so this is the old Portland Christian school
Okay.
property. Portland Christian moved out, I think to Westport Road.
Yeah.
So they had two facilities for a long time. They closed this one on Portland Avenue 27, 16, 17, somewhere around there. And the property was acquired by Gil Holland. And I guess 2019, 2020, Delta moved in, started doing their work with kids and students. Recently, last year or two, Gil wanted to sell the property, and more or less gave them right of first refusal. So they were able to come up with the money. And they don't use the full facility. So the idea was that they would use the classrooms as and rent offices to other nonprofits. So that one, they could have cooperating services, with the students. And have everybody under the same roof, and also so that, you know, the proceed from those rentals kind of come back into the same facility and, nurture, those nonprofits. I've, you know, been through the facility. I know, Wes somewhat well. Our kids go to the same school. So it's really, we're actually neighbors. Our property abuts theirs. Not heard, any ill speak. I don't think anybody has any. I've never heard anything negative about them. But, I mean, I think it's a good fit.
Also, there's additional documentation that if anyone wants to go through there in those folders as well.
Let me ask you something. This is just like, for this nonprofit, just a quick, the total income was like 521. And then, payroll expenses like 181,375. That's roughly about 34%. Is that in line? I mean, is that good? Is that, but what are like those nonprofits who have stuff from programs and then salary? What percentages? Seems like I remember.
That, I would leave that to Crow to actually analyze that. I mean, I don't think that the margin is out of scope, but to say that it's on par with every nonprofit, I wouldn't give that.
Typically, what can you give me some guidance there?
I believe they have 2 full-time and 2 part-time. They want to get to 3 more full-time.
School district, public school is gonna be probably 70 on the low end and 80 on the high end of personnel to total expenses. So, you know, just throwing that out there for what it's worth. And this isn't education per se, but
Right.
30 seemed low to me when you mentioned it.
Well, they're not full-time.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, yeah. No, oh, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And I'm not saying, I was just wondering where, so, you know, that's what I'm just asking. That's one of the.
As they fill the facility up, like I said, they just added a couple of for-profit companies. But as they fill this facility up, they'll increase their revenue and therefore increasing their profit line. They really only have 1 or 2 more spaces that they can fill, and that's not including the cafeteria. So once you create that as a commissary, I mean, that's hourly generated.
Outcomes have been good. I mean, that's the end of the day.
Absolutely.
They have a good track record. They don't seem to be top heavy at all expense wise. They are putting money in programs.
And they got a good reputation in the community.
So this is being presented to the finance committee with a recommendation that their request be approved and then forward to the board for action.
$50,000 request.
Yes.
I mean, anybody have questions, any more questions about that? Somebody raise your hand on him.
Oh, no, oh, I'm sorry.
But
I
it's
forgot
not-
I'm over here. Somebody raise their
But
hand.
it's someone who's an
Is it-
observer.
If it's an observer, where? Raise their hand where?
Yeah, it's an observer. It's not a
Is it?
member of the committee.
It would be, is there somebody, 2 participants on the committee? So Dr. Gabe, do you have a question, or Dr. Craddock?
I do have a quick question. Just in regards to this, so I know I'm not formally on this committee, but I'm wondering what the committee's insight is with regard to us potentially making a commitment like this while we don't have those numbers that we've talked about in several meetings. Is this numeric threshold something that you all feel comfortable in us being able to make a recommendation on prior to getting that other information in?
On the
Oh,
$50,000 request,
Is he talking about are you talking about the tip dollars?
yes.
Are we comfortable recommending $50,000 in light of the fact that we don't have the TIF numbers?
Yes.
As a chair of the, I am. I can't speak for everybody, but yes, I feel like I am. Yes, sir. Anybody have any comments to that? Michael, you good with?
Who knows where interest rates are gonna go, like, you know. We'll make that up in a couple months.
Yeah.
On our current income, but nothing's guaranteed.
Looks like Dr. Craddock raised his hand.
Dr. Craddock, you have a question?
Yeah, I had one question, and I apologize if I missed it. I know we were discussing maybe a particular threshold as it relates to grants. Did we ever finalize what that threshold would be? I'm just
Yeah,
thinking about the precedence of 50,000, and then, what does that mean for future means as well,
think
as it
we were
relates to us
looking at-
determining grant?
I think we were looking at grants being like $100,000 and less.
Less than 100.
Towards the,
It-
towards the end of today's meeting, we're prepared to come forward with some recommendations regarding the maximum dollar size of grants and some discussion regarding who is eligible to apply for a grant as opposed to applying for a traditional loan. So we've had some thoughts about that internally, and we plan to discuss that with you in a few moments and then make a recommendation to you.
Okay, well, I just was thinking, are we thinking per request or annually? And that kind of would lean one way or another as it relates to approving any type of grant, this one or those
It's,
moving forward too.
We're looking at a maximum dollar amount per request for a grant, rather than to have a maximum dollar amount at this time per neighborhood.
But per organization.
That's another good,
Yeah, not making a recommendation at this time regarding.
but that's a good point.
Mhm.
I mean,
That's a very good
But
point.
if is the overarching assumption is, if an organization does come to us for a grant, what we'll be able to find out as we're going through the discussions with them is whether they have other items queued up. People are going to be encouraged to ask for a single grant rather than a series of grants. So
Mhm.
there's not going to be that possibility that we will be confronted with 3 or 4 grants from the same organization in the same fiscal period.
what about,
Yes.
from a standpoint? The following is, I don't know, if you get X amount of grant, you can, for this fiscal year, the next fiscal year, the next calendar year, you can come back again, or how we?
We are operating now on a fiscal year financially. So what we do this year is for this year. And then that does not forestall, if we give someone a grant this year, it doesn't mean they can't come back next year.
Okay.
But each grant is going to be analyzed on its own merit.
And I think that wouldn't that also take into consideration what you just said, that entities won't be able to come back to get multiple grants, whether it's an account fiscal year or multi-years. I think that's probably some additional refinement after we talk about the basis that you're putting forward that would have to be discussed.
Thanks, Doug. Good question.
I just have
anybody
one,
else have-
I have one follow-up. Sorry, William. Should we determine
No, go
that
ahead.
before? Yeah, I'm just thinking, just trying to think strategically. Should we determine that threshold and those things before moving forward with the grant approval process, or just trying to thinking out loud from a discussion-based standpoint, which works best, thinking the end in mind?
Well, coincidentally, and maybe it's just that a coincidence, the matters that you will be asked to approve today are consistent with the recommendations that we are planning to make. So if you approve these, you're going to be putting yourself in a position of contradicting what you'll be asked to do in a few minutes.
Okay, thank you.
But if you're more comfortable, we can, of course,
Go to that agenda
forestall
item.
this
Yeah,
conversation now and just move on to, those recommendations, those overarching recommendations that we wanted to make. If you prefer to do them first, we certainly can do
you
that.
more comfortable with that, Doug?
I just was thinking it would, in my mind, it would be helpful from an informed decision process. So
Okay,
that we
Okay.
know, just thinking out loud, but also looking for any type of feedback as well. So
But
yeah.
yeah. Okay, so we can move to that, Travis, if you just be on standby.
yeah,
So we're just tabling this for now.
Yes.
Just for now. I think if everyone would, put their attention on item number 4, sub-item, 3. The funding request, grant request and loan request distinction. I think everyone can recall that we've had a number of discussions, at this committee, regarding whether we wanted to put additional parameters on the size of grants, who could apply for a grant, and then to put some restrictions on to distinguish a grant from a loan, or what is appropriate for a loan request as opposed to a grant. So you see the 3 recommendations that are listed there. I have one correction on that last bullet point, but I'll let you know what that is when I get there. The first recommendation that we have is all grant requests are restricted to nonprofit applicants only and are limited to amounts below $100,000, meaning only nonprofits can request grants from us, and the maximum amount they can request annually is less than $100,000. This solves the issue that we have seen lately, where we have had huge requests from very large sophisticated organizations who, although they are technically nonprofits, operate on the same level as some businesses, given the huge size of their budgets, et cetera. So we are saying a grant should be less than $100,000, and the entity that's applying for the grant should in fact be operating as a nonprofit. The second recommendation says loan requests below $100,000 are restricted to small businesses only and will be characterized as small business development loans. So if you are operating as a business and you have a $75,000 request, you have to be a small business, literally a small business, rather than a large, sophisticated, business that's been operating for a number of years. The idea is to help these small businesses get a leg up with a small loan that will help them bridge the gap that they're in currently. It also means that for our small businesses, certain supports are supplied for them, that when they come to us, if they need assistance putting their financials together, we have partners in the community who can help them to do that. They may also need assistance trying to figure out how to file their taxes. We have partnerships with professionals in the community who can do that for them. So if you are just seeking a small loan, there are certain hoops and parameters that the larger businesses would have to jump through that you would not. We would support you in filling the gap, and we would review your credentials to determine whether or not you were appropriate for us to recommend a small loan to. Now, the last one is the most significant one. Yeah.
business.
Mhm.
How are we looking at defining that? People's definition of small business could be different.
Go ahead.
Well, one way is an organization that is able to follow all the compliance as far as participation. If you have a small business that needs a loan for a truck repair or a loan to help them, do missions and they've already completed, then yes, you want them to choose someone from the community to assist with that build out. But they don't have the capacity to follow that requirement of 35% participation. I mean, because it's going to be an organization that is only so much. And I would also think that their revenue would be taken into consideration by this committee as far as, how large they are, what their revenue is, and how sophisticated their organization is. I mean, if you have a ERP system that's costing $40,000 a month, I would say you're not considered as a small business at that point.
Well, here's the only thing that I would say this. I think we definitely need to make sure we have a firm definition. So everybody understands that.
Okay,
Did you want that trigger revenue or number of employees? Because I think that's the two things that would determine it more than anything is the same as the SBA does.
I think that revenue is going to be one, but we need to make sure that we make it fit our demographic as well. So I mean, I think that could be a component, but we need to make sure that it fits. I mean, because then, houses were coming up that nobody, it's not going to be a sole proprietor, does it have to be incorporated, all those things. Yeah, probably not, but we just need to firm up the definition so everybody understands it.
Yeah.
so we'll need a definition for a small business. Now, the final one, and this is the one that I said has to be edited based on what's there. It should say grant requests and loan requests, which exceed $100,000, will be characterized as traditional enterprise loan requests, and as such must show compliance with all aspects of the criteria for fund eligibility. This means that we will not entertain grant requests for over $100,000. So if you apply for a grant and the amount of money you are requesting is $1,000 or more, you'll be notified that your request is being treated as a request for a loan. And this is whatever kind of business you are. Now, recall that when the board passed the criteria for fund eligibility, you set out a number of requirements that these large businesses have to meet in order to get fund from the partnership. They had to show what they were going to contribute to the community, both in terms of hiring, the services they were going to provide, and what they were going to give back to the community. There are also a number of other requirements. So this proviso is saying, if you ask us for $100,000, it is going to be treated as a loan, and you will have to meet all of the benchmarks that is set out in the CFE. Is there any discussion? Yes.
So what's the goal in setting the limits? Is that to signal to the larger organizations, don't apply, or
When you say go, I don't believe. I'll say these.
we're trying to set
Okay.
these limits?
Okay. One of the things that we have noticed, and when Travis has given his report at the finance committee meetings, you will see large, sophisticated nonprofits who are asking for a $1 million grant or a $600,000 grant. They're not asking for loans. They are coming in and asking us to give them a grant, to give them some funding without the expectation that they're going to pay it back. This policy sends a signal that if you are asking for more than $100,000, our expectation is that you will be borrowing from us rather than asking us to just give you some funding. There does appear to be some confusion about that publicly. If you look at the number of entities that are just asking us for these huge dollar amount grants, and these are entities, many of them have the wherewithal to pay back a loan. But their mindset are a foundation rather than a business enterprise.
I mean, I guess my concern is, you know, I don't want to paint us into a corner. And that later on, you know, we have an opportunity that we can't move on because it, you know, violates the policy. And I don't like, we can just tell people no. And you know, so, I mean, I kind of understand why, but also I think, you know, I'll worry about unintended consequences.
Okay, so you're saying that you would feel more comfortable now if we just continued as we are and have those discussions here in the finance committee and let each request stand on its own?
More or less until we have, you know,
Some kind of history of doing things? Until we build up a history of how we are doing things or how we.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. That's fair enough. Oh, did he? Okay, that's understandable. We don't have any kind of history. We're just getting started. Okay, that's understandable.
I mean, I can,
Mhm. So you're just asking, so perhaps this isn't the appropriate time for us to adopt new policies. And we can take care of these concerns in the recommendations that we bring to this committee regarding who we think is appropriate to fund. And then this committee can look at each one of those and let them rise or fall on their own merit.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. What about the rest of the committee? How are you feeling regarding that?
Doug, what's your comments on that?
Yeah, so one thing that comes to mind for me, I do see it both ways. I don't want to set unrealistic expectations. So somebody's requesting a certain dollar amount. If they knew that what the threshold was or what the requirement may be, they could facilitate and request that amount unless we provide them feedback and say, we won't fund this amount or whatever the case may be, we'll only fund this amount. So that's kind of my thought process on the tail end of it is, I think having some type of identity to while we don't have history, we're allowing ourselves to position ourselves to better know our narrative and what our limits are to illustrate, to build that historical kind of funding model to an extent as it relates to loans and grants, and what that looks like. So that's kind of what stands out to me. And I'm kind of going back and forth on as well. While we don't have a history, we still have to set some type of, we're creating our identity about what it looks like from a funding model in regards to grants and loans, and kind of building that, whatever that capacity may be helpful for us.
Okay, so
Um,
let's just try to get a feel for how the committee is feeling. These are discussions that we can certainly continue to have. I don't think that there's anything that would require us to make a decision on these policies today. So we can talk about this as we go forward. Or are people feeling more comfortable if we just pledge ourselves to continue to look at these issues to make a decision today? Okay. That's fine then.
Laura, could I ask a quick question?
Certainly.
So I'm not sure where those so the $100,000 thresholds came from.
Yes.
But it occurs to me, so sort of building on what Doug was saying, if there are numbers that we know, for example, that our sustainability is in jeopardy if we are accepting grants, for example, over a certain threshold,
Yes.
I do think as far as just having an equity mindset as it relates to especially small community organizations who may be spending a lot of time and resources going through this application process, I do think it's important that we communicate or convey that if we know that over a certain threshold we cannot accept, that we communicate that, so they're not going through this entire process and doing things that are in actuality unrealistic, but we haven't told them that until after they go through the work of doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, now, the way that we have been working so far with these entities is we are asking them to focus in on the amount of money that they are requesting and how they're characterizing that funding. So we have had those discussions with them that they can consider alternatives. Yes, Mike?
I understand the need to signal this is, this is where we're at. I think we could have, suggested values, but if something comes in, it's $107,000, like, do we really want, like, oh, so it's an automatic rejection. And, as we move forward, like, $100,000 isn't what it used to be. So, we're going to be, and certainly we can, adjust it as needed in the future, but, maybe have these are the suggestions, but if something just really, is a slam dunk thing and, we have to reject it based on policy, like, I don't want to be in that position.
Okay.
I think we still, so I am in agreement with Doug and Mike. However, I guess my mind is a little different because I feel like we should have like a tier, meaning we may not give, they may ask for $107,000. That may not be a lot of money. And we can vet them as much as we would like, but once we write that check, we don't get it back. So they can take it and the whole organization can fail. So even in that type of situation, it'll be nice if we say, okay, yes, we'll do that, but we're going to give you $50,000 at first. And then over a period of time, we can come back and give you the remaining balance. But I think writing a large amount of money to even nonprofits, you can have the greatest nonprofit there is, but a terrible manager over the funds. It's not to give it to them, but I think that we need to evaluate on a come basis. But as far as having stipulations, I think just saying, hey, that we're not going to write you $100,000 check off top. We're going to give you a certain amount. Maybe even go back. Neighborhood representative can go back and say, okay, yeah, they did fix the windows, or they did do the flooring, they did do this. And then after that, yeah, report it out to the committee and we can. That's just my thoughts on it.
Well, it appears that the majority of the committee is not comfortable making a hard and fast decision today. And we are blessed in terms of having a good partner in Cornerstone Engineering who is analyzing the heck out of every single request that we receive. That's why it's important that they are looking at the financial profile for each of these companies, the experience level, these entities rather, their level of experience, et cetera. So there is no emergency that would require us to adopt these new parameters today. We can continue to build up a little bit of history. And as the Finance Committee reviews the reports that Cornerstone offers at these meetings, there may be bits and pieces of information there that would help us to be more comfortable at some point in the future, setting these limits. Were you about to say something, Trev?
I have a question of, some of the requests that are in the pipeline now are significant amounts from nonprofits. There's one 9.5 million, 4.5 million, 2.5 million, 1.3 million.
Grants I won't.
Grants,
Grants.
which is what.
From the
Right.
spreadsheet that I show, the difference between grant and loan requests is significant. And some of these loan requests they're there, the applications have been done, and they're on the table now. So I think that was the reason I had putting it forward and communicate to these groups now that that doesn't fit the model. A $9.5 million request, because the fund at that point won't be sustainable. So I just wanted to, not that I'm asking for any decision, but wanted to make sure that everyone is aware that these requests are out there and
I think there
applications
has to
have been
be
completed.
some limits. Maybe we not prepared to say what they are right now, but to that point, you know, we can't say that we're in the grant business of up to $9 million. So there's got to be a limit. I understand what you're saying. So like I said, I just think, you know, right now, this may not be the best time to do this. We can go ahead and see where we stand. These don't fall into that category. So we can go ahead and see where we stand on these. And then we're gonna have to have some more further discussions and see where we can land on that.
Yes, and I think that's what the consensus is, that people are anticipating that we will have to set limitations, but they're not comfortable doing that right now.
Right.
Now,
Alicia, I didn't hear if you made any comments.
yes, she
Okay.
is saying the same thing. Now,
Okay.
back to what Travis has said, these significant dollar amount requests that we have for grants right now. I think it would be helpful if we go back to some of these organizations or back to these organizations and indicate to them that the dollar amount they are requesting is not, we're not inclined to grant that request at this time. Are you comfortable with us doing that?
In that amount, I'm comfortable with that.
This is Doug one more time. Internally, I feel like we can't, in my opinion, we shouldn't really move forward with approving any grants until we have all that kind of in place, in my opinion. Because while we may grant somebody 50K and somebody else 25K, there may be an organization saying, well, you know, if I knew that was the case, I just would have requested 50K as well, did my documents that way, and then been able to receive those dollars too. So that's kind of my only hesitation about.
That's why I'm suggesting that if we decide not to adopt any of these parameters today, that Travis be allowed to communicate to these organizations that have these hefty grant requests, that the organization is not inclined at this time to grant the request, that they won't be in a holding expecting us to give them $1.5 million or $850,000 as a grant. We clearly have requests in the pipeline that would not be in our best interest to grant, because they would put us in a perilous financial situation. So if we say no to these, current.
A lot of those projects that are in the pipeline, and if I understand what you're saying, you know, our organization risks expending a lot of, you know, time and money processing those applications, correct?
Yes.
So, you know, we want to kick them out, you know, sooner rather than later, so that, you know. That being said, a lot of proposals that, you know, we're not interested in aren't really complete applications. So like there's tons of other, you know, reasonings for why we wouldn't want to fund them. beyond just the dollar amount. I think rather than focusing on the dollar amounts, we need to look at, the value of, whatever is being suggested. And I know a lot of that gets into academic territory. But,
But that is the case as well, too, because remember in these bi-weekly meetings that we had, the entire profile of the application is reviewed, including whether they have provided the required information, whether their request is in writing and endorsed by the board of the organization, et cetera. So all Travis gathers all of that information. And when you notice in his report, he has a little schematic where he'll show what the missing pieces are. So we've got that information already. So,
we're paying them to do all of that management. And, if we set a threshold, then maybe we would avoid some of that. But you also risk, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Some proposal that, somebody doesn't submit because it doesn't match the numbers, but, could provide, clear value that, would increase the TIF and all of the other stuff. I mean, a lot of that's hypothetical, but
So if they're asking for $9.5 million, I want to make sure I'm understanding. You're saying still go through the whole process with them. Instead of saying, we know at the end, we're not going to vote for $9.5 million for a company that's already making X amount of $1 million.
so if somebody came to us with a proposal that was going to cost $9 million, but could contribute 20 million to the TIF the first year, would we do that deal? We throw it out because it's, too much money.
Well, here's what I'm saying to that. The 20 million would be speculative. The 9 million out the door would not be speculative. And we therefore would be, what if they said it was going to generate 20 million and it generated 1 million? So we had just made a $9 million investment in which we may never see a return on. And not only are we not going to see a return on it, we are now 1/3 the size. So I just think that, we have to look at things until we get to a certain asset size. I don't think that we are able, banks that are a certain size have a loan limit that they can make, a federal loan limit. If I'm $20 million, a $20 million bank, I can't make a $20 million. So we need to look at this. And so I don't think that perspective, yes, right now, we are not able to give away $9 million of our assets because we just don't have enough if we're looking to be sustainable over the years.
now remember at the end of last year, we had adopted our criteria for fund eligibility. We had developed the application process. We publicized that to the community and we indicated that we are open and ready to receive applications. Today, you were presented with 2 very good applications. One for what I think is a modest size grant, a mighty organization. And then Travis has another one that is a loan request for an organization that's done its homework, that has its financials together, that has other partners, financial partners who are standing on the line with us. My thought is that you receive these recommendations, that we go through the presentation today and decide that you want to approve these based on the dollar amount, the experience level, and the record of these 2 organizations. There is minimal risk for the organization. And that's why we've come forward with this. I would not recommend stalling and standing in place until we have had a chance to think through the grant versus loans and max scenarios, because that will mean it will be July and we still have not responded to some of these folks who took us at our word and have made some good applications. There are other ones in the pipeline too that will be coming forward. So again, if the body is not comfortable adopting these limitations today, then I think we've got time to build up a record and to keep our discussions going. But I also think it's imperative that we move forward with those in the pipeline that are ready to move forward.
I mean, look, I'm comfortable with, if we decide to do these two, what we have, we can do these. But like I said, I get it that we do need to if they're gonna have limits, have those. But whatever our limits are gonna be, I don't think that it affects whether we do
These two.
decide to approve these two.
Okay. Is everyone feeling okay about that? We're sorry for all this distractions going on outside of this meeting. Is hitting the news now. It's unfortunate. So it's meant some people have to go in and out. But I say that we move forward today on these two applications that we're ready.
Deciding whether we
Recommend.
move them, right, yes.
Okay.
Now you wanna pull up, the brothers, please? Oh, if you're, are everyone ready?
Yeah. Anybody else have any questions on this?
Do you want the motion now on Delta,
Or do we want to,
or do we want?
I say, look, everybody, if there's no other questions, does anybody have a motion to move to recommend to the full board that we approve this Delta grant of $50,000?
So moved.
So moved. Is there a second? Second
Seconds.
by Michael. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor? Yeah, so that,
Any opposed?
no, nobody was opposed.
Okay, all right,
All right,
Let's
now
keep-
let's go to the second one.
thank you.
Good Brothers.
So, the Brothers Pharmacy is a proposal presented by Deshaun King and Isaiah Jones, two young men from the community going off to school. Well, one is still in school, and now they want to open a pharmacy in on 2306 West Market Street. You can go forward, son. So they have in place themselves, of course, as the owners of the company. They have a part-time pharmacist that has signed on and agreed, as well as two other pharmacists, and their letters of intent will be in that file with additional documents. But one is as well, has worked in the community as a pharmacist over a decade, who is signed on, and another is outside of the community, but will be the pharmacist in charge to manage these two pharmacists that they have, as well as their district manager. So they have their staff in place and are ready to go. They also are receiving consultation from the Independent RX consulting firm, which is a cohort of independent pharmacies. These two young men on all of the ebbs and flows of being in the pharmaceutical business. So they work with them hand in hand as they go through this process, as well as others that they have working with them as well. So the purpose of this project, primary goal is to provide prescription medication to residents of Russell neighborhood, surrounding West End neighborhoods, and adjacent communities within Louisville. They want to serve as that neighborhood pharmacy that we going right up to the pharmacy corner store, because they're in that area. I mean, you've got Kroger on Broadway, but there's not a lot of resources as far as medication. And some of the services that they're proposing to provide don't exist at all. You can keep scrolling down. The why. So these young men, again, through their journey in life and through their fraternal brotherhood, they've established some things that have been instilled in them as far as service, resilience, leadership. Their mission is to extend beyond filling prescriptions. They envision pharmacy as a trusted pillar, as I mentioned earlier. Some of their objectives is to exceed customer expectations, increase the number of customers by 30% within the first year. And as you mentioned earlier, just with the nonprofits, all of these are goals. So with any investment, there's going to be some risk involved. Yes, we hope that they hit these numbers, but there's also resources that we will be one of those resources to help them to provide some oversight as they go through these milestones that they've set for themselves. Partner with 340, back up just a little bit because that one is big. So partner with 340B program. That's a discount program for medication that will be important in the community. Secure funding to open future Louisville locations. They plan to open little locations, and they are actually eyeing another location in the California neighborhood. There's a potential second location within their second or third year. Secure an additional $3 million and build 4 additional stores in high-need Louisville areas after 2 to 3 years. The mission to meet pharmacy healthcare needs of individuals and families by providing high-quality, affordable, cultural, competent healthcare experiences and services within underserved, disadvantaged communities. The company's summary is, so Isaiah and Deshaun own 70% of the company. They've had some other investors come into play. They have a METCO loan that for $200,000, and they actually, their terms that they proposed for this loan follows that model that they've received as far as interest wise and as far as the duration of loan. Now, their proposal is a proposal. If the partnership decides that, well, we think that the percentage should be here or the duration to be here, then that's a different thing. But this is what they've put on the table, 10 years, 10 year with 4% interest, and the first 6 months to be granted at interest free. Not that they won't make the payments, but it is 0 interest for the first 6 months. And again, that type of information will be handled by Crow. And again, because this is an upstart business, their personal tax information is used, which is sensitive information. Only Crow will be privy to that information, along with their personal bank statements and so forth. You can continue to go down. Financing the project. Good Brothers Pharmacy will use a combination of local programs. I mentioned the METCO loan, Park Community Credit Union, L Homes, and local investors who receive competitive ROI to secure the startup capital. Please note these, you can keep going. So the request itself, can you scroll back up there for just a second? I'm sorry. Well, the request is for $250,000, like I just mentioned, and I just mentioned the duration of it for 10 years, 4% interest, first 6 months. And again, that's,
That's up for debate. I mean, I agree.
That's up for debate. Yeah. Before I went too far, William, I wanted to make sure I made that caveat.
You can't tell me your terms, Dad.
Well, but we do ask that they come up with
Right.
some type of framework.
Right.
I mean, we have those that are just say, just give me the money and I'll decide, I'll figure it out later.
It might be helpful since they have a METCO loan and they're similar terms. If somebody explains what METCO is.
So METCO, the loan that they receive is actually a program with the city, and they actually have a recommendation from the METCO. This venture has been stalled and stopped on 4 different occasions. Their funding was pulled back and then given back to them because of their perseverance. These young men have no quit in them, and they are dead set on seeing this through. I mean, it's a recommendation that we put this proposal to the committee because I believe that it's gonna happen. and the partnership may as well be invested in it because these guys won't quit. And like I said, the city program with the METCO loan, they have it in place and they have a letter of recommendation from their council that's helping them with that loan. Okay, this is just what they're looking at as far as their total need for operations. Building uplift, that's the building renovation, $130,000. Professional fees, fixtures, software, hardware, initial inventory, working capital, $611,000 total, which they've secured just about $400,000 of that, as you can see in the financials there. They've completed market analysis of the area. You can scroll down some more. Target customers and healthcare providers. Ultimately, the objective is to target healthcare providers serving predominantly minority patients, chronic diseases, behavioral health challenges that generate high prescription volumes. They want to have a free delivery program to their customers. The products, they'll provide a range of products, services. You can scroll down some more, and a range of services as well. Retail prescription, free delivery, immunization, 340B program that I mentioned earlier, which is a discount drug program. Scroll down some more. Medication synchronization, which is important to a lot of people in our community. Hold on one second right there. So medication synchronization is a patient care service designed to enhance adherence and streamline pharmacy operations. Under this system, each patient is assigned a designated day to pick up all medication. So as we all know, that is a challenge for a lot of our community to make sure that their medication properly. You have pharmacists that prescribe medicine, but they don't provide any resources to make sure that some of their customers are taking this medication properly. This is a service that they're looking to provide. Medication therapy, keep going. Diabetes education, specialized packaging. So stop right there again. That's another one that would be valuable for seniors because a lot of times seniors get pills. I know I went through it with my own father, and they'll be able to identify clearly what medicine is for what. Point of contact testing, where they'll be able to test on site for some of the things that emphysema, COVID, and other things like that they'll be able to test right on site. The insurance plans that they want to work with is Medicare Part 1, B, and D, United Healthcare, Medicare Complete, Cigna, Aetna, Humana, and Express Scripts. So the renovation itself that they've actually done on the facility, you can scroll down some more. Thus far, they've done drywall, interior, electrical. They've installed security systems. They've done some exterior rehab. Scroll down. And $65,000 on their build out. You can scroll down some more. And as you can see, this is the location in 2306 Market Street. They have everything in place there. They've completed the build out except for very minor finishes. They're forecasting that 60 days after receiving funding that they'll be able to open their doors. Like I said, they have several agreements in place, including one agreement that they were awarded $100,000 in PR. So they have that in place as well. So they'll be able to get the message out. Combine that with whatever PR that the partnership pushes behind it. This will be a known entity in the community. And it could be a resource for generations to come. This is the building. They've done some exterior painting there. They have private consultation rooms inside and supporting docs. They have their COI. But the build out is done. It can be provided a COI without it. Supporting docs, as I mentioned earlier, you can scroll up. This is from Brenda Hyatt with METCO, and she is fully supporting this this venture, as well as they have 2 letters of support and letters of intent from licensed pharmacists in their in the additional documents that they have. You can flip just financial. And again, because this is their personal information, this is mostly projections. So they have their walk-in customer projections, their B2B projections. So they're looking at 50, 60, I'm sorry. Can you go back? Sorry. They're looking at 50, 15, 60, and 25, with the majority of it being, of course, B2B, because the bulk of their revenue will come from those providers. They have their break-even analysis, pointed out, their pharmacy personnel, scroll down there. So they have the first 3 years projection, for the personnel plan, pharmacists full-time. Again, like I said, they have the part-time on board. They have 2 full-time pharmacists that have signed letters of intent, a pharmacy technician, total of 5 employees total. Scroll down again. The profit and loss. So they're looking to have a gross margin of $300,000 in the first year, which again, the bulk of that will come from those providers. It won't come from walk-in traffic. As you know, 90% of every one of their sales, the revenue actually comes from the provider itself. Keep going. They have a projected balance sheet, and this is the current balance sheet. I think it's $400,000, $661,000 in assets, which is machine equipment, the storefront. They have the lease in place, which is also in that additional documents folder. You can go ahead and scroll down. And then they broke out the first 4 months in revenue. So this is that 90% that I was mentioning earlier from the insurance companies. And they also have research done by U of L for that area as far as what it would take for a pharmacist to be successful in that area. They have their business plan in place. They have their marketing plan in place. So every bit of documentation that we've requested from them is there. Any questions on Good Brothers?
One question, I know the Medco loans are normally secured if they're over 50,000. I mean that they're unsecured. Are they offering security or for this loan?
We can propose that.
Okay.
Right now, they just put the terms out there, but like I said, we wanted to get this in front of the committee, and anything that you all wanted to send back, I would communicate that with them.
What's Gabe say? Gabe?
Yeah, so I had a quick question. Could you repeat the question that I think it was Amy asked? I just couldn't hear that very well. Could you want to repeat that?
Would they be willing to secure the loan? And in actuality, he did mention collateral as his home. But like I said, we can provide a proposal to them. I mean,
Yeah, and it would be probably helpful to know what security Medco took.
Yeah.
So if we're
Yeah.
talking about taking.
it wouldn't be a
repeat.
repeat, yeah.
Yeah, either we'd have to take different collateral
Yeah.
or a second.
Yeah.
Be second in line.
Or second
collateral.
position.
Yeah, but it was extremely preliminary conversations concerning that. He
Okay.
just he wanted to get their proposal in front of this committee, and then the committee can tell, like I said, where they're at with their request. Several of the entities that we're dealing with, they do not provide this framework, where at least the committee can then say, well, okay, you're here, we would like you to be here. And we can take that back and meet that with them.
Gabe, what do you know about these folks?
Thank you for asking. So the first thing I will say, just to get it out of the way, so initially when I heard about these folks, I want to say it may have been as many as 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. And to Travis's point, they have clearly been hard at it because so I think when I initially heard about them, I actually had a younger cousin who was planning at that time to be their pharmacist. I did connect with him prior to meeting today, and he is no longer a part of their project formally. And so that's why I'm still here, and I feel comfortable speaking on this and giving my input once I verified that that connection was no longer there. He is still pictured on their website, though, just to be clear about that. But my cousin is not listed anywhere on their application materials. So when I initially heard about them, it was very early in the planning stages. I think at one point they were interested in pitching their business to Russell A Place of Promise, who was at the time having community pitch sessions for what is to be the 30th and Madison project. Obviously, I can't remember why, but that didn't end up happening. I know then I heard that they were going to be located on West Broadway, and obviously they've shifted from that location to this location. So everything I do know about them, while I think I've met these fellas, I don't know them personally. I can speak to sort of the relentlessness that Travis alluded to, because that has been pretty clear. I can also say that my initial review was of their application form, and I didn't notice all of the rest of these documents. So after this presentation, I do feel much better than I initially did, based off of just the review of their application. I had quite a lot of concerns actually based on the application form that have been answered here. I do know that their idea is something that the folks in the community who I've connected with feel positively about. I did have a couple of questions that came up for me. One of which was, so I know they mentioned the market study. I was curious, was the market study conducted before or after the Norton Hospital in the West End? Because I do know they have a pharmacy there. And I just want to make sure that these guys can complete the terms they've laid out. I also noticed on the application, they said that they would be willing to begin payment this month. And that meant to me, like, as soon as they get it, they're going to be ready to start payment. But I knew that they wouldn't be making or providing any services until 60 days after. So I just wanted to clarify that. And I had a couple of other questions as well, if we could get to those.
Well, Dr. Gabe, the lack of the documentation being in the folder initially is intentional, because until we bring these entities before the board, we're collecting and compiling those documents, we're reading through them, and then just again, for the sake of privacy, we don't want that information out there until we know that we're going to bring for consideration. And I think that's an accommodation that we should make every single time. As far as the market analysis being done before Norton, I'm pretty sure that it wasn't, with Norton just recently opening. However, I would say this, that Norton is on Broadway, and there are several people in the Portland area as well as bordering that Russell area that would still be, a challenge to get to, especially seniors. And what was your last question, Dr. Gabe? Sorry.
I think I asked about, so this may or may not apply, because like you said, because they gave more information in the document you have here. So I noticed when I initially read through the application, it said that they would be ready and willing to begin loan repayment essentially this month, implying that as soon as they got the loan, they would start repayment. Does that shift with the 60-day piece that you mentioned?
Well, actually, I told that with youthful enthusiasm. They actually told me that we can start the payment in 45 days. I said, it was my suggestion that, look, fellas, it's going to take a little bit to get in there and get your feet wet. So maybe you say 60 days instead. And I apologize in advance for that. But since Dr. Gabe asked the question, I think it's our duty to also ensure that whatever they put forward is prudent also for their best. I mean, so them saying that they will be able to begin payment immediately, they funded quite a bit of this as well out of their pocket. Deshaun is gainfully employed, and so a lot of this is coming out of his pocket. But again, I would just ask that this committee, take all things into consideration when structuring that repayment. Any other questions, Dr. Gabe?
So you also said they had $400,000 in funds already secured?
Yes.
Okay. And is that from, so I think on the application when I read, it said they didn't have funds from, I think it was called traditional lending organizations. Is that correct? And if so, do we know where those other 400 are from?
Well, one is the MECO loan of 200. Then I believe they also secured some financing from Elm, and then also from private investors. So as probe against the vet that, they'll dig more into exactly where these funds are coming from. But we know as public record that $200,000 of it is from Metco loan.
Okay, I may have another question or two in a second, but I think you answered a lot of the ones I had listed when you presented this, so I'm kind of going back through them now. So I'm gonna go on mute.
Absolutely. Take your time. And this presentation, as well as financials we were able to share, as well as all of those documents are in those shared folders. Y'all can go through them, read through them, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out.
At least y'all like to get in your head. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, come on.
So I see, you said, I know it's the Metco, but I also see Park Community and L Home. So are those also loans?
Yes,
Are they also secure loans?
I believe they are. So, and I get your point where you're going. I said again, they've been doing this a lot out of pocket, but they also have some private investors.
And they have enough to do a secure loan. Their property is valued enough to do that many secure loans.
Well, I don't know if they use his property per se for the first one. For this application, Deshaun did say that he could use his property. So as far as getting all of that information, I would leave that to Crow. But as far as his application, just like what you were just saying with the nonprofits, this is what he's presented and this is what we've been able to vet up to this point.
For instance, I haven't done a mortgage search, but Medco has a UCC filing
Yeah.
for their inventory, furniture, all of, so it's filing for. But that's the only UCC filing that there is from the business.
My only concern, but the only concern I had is one, well, I have two, only two. This is a phenomenal project. I remember in 2020 or 2021, when they proposed it, we was so excited about this project. I know we have Norton's, but what they're gonna offer is more catered to this community, with the ability to transport the pharmaceuticals to them, the ability to have a lot of the things that our community needs. This program is, I mean, what they're doing and what they have done, I actually thought they just disappeared. I didn't know they have been doing work.
Yeah.
Even the building itself
Yeah.
was, I don't know the professional word, garbage. It was inside. So see these is amazing to me. My only concern is if we do ask for the secure loan piece. I know that we should. I know that's exactly a good, when you loaning money, you should do that. But they already have a lot of loans and secure loans, and I don't want us to be like the other organizations to help with their downfall. You know what I mean? You can pay back loans, but you still got that interest. You're still trying to build up. It can add up in a negative way. So with $250,000, that's not a secure loan, could possibly help them a little bit more than always adding collateral to it.
Well, here's what I say to that. First of all, typically, like a financial institution, say Metco and Park Community, say they went on first and second. Typically, the institution wouldn't take a third. You really are not. So if we took a third just as the abundance of caution, I think we wouldn't be adding. And, we wouldn't, look, man, we want to get paid, but it's not like we would, unless they got, really, really far in the rear. I mean, be aggressive. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like a financial, because we want them to be successful, we want people to be employed, and we want to create economic vibrancy throughout the community. So I see what you're saying, but I don't think that taking the position or taking the lean would be just like any other financial institution, because I don't think that they would take that position.
And also, to Laura's point earlier, if you notice in the bi-weekly reports, the recommendation that we made to them was to make a phased disbursement $125,000 up front. And then will we provide oversight to ensure that there's some compliance there with the milestones that they set forth. And then, so perhaps the secure part is on that. And then the second section comes back to this committee and figure out, okay, they've operated in good faith, done everything that was required of them. Do we have to put that on the second portion? So I'm not saying that I'm suggesting that that could be an option, but that's one of the reasons, because they're a fledgling organization, that we said, well, we understand $250,000 is more in the frame of what you need. But if you can make this make sense, then perhaps you enter into that next conversation.
Okay, what else, man? I mean, I'm looking at it just from a business, look, man, it look like it's a good business plan. You say the individuals seem like what you know about them, they're aggressive, they're very intense, so they're committed to this project. I mean, I think you said the community, when you talked to your community, they were excited about having this. Alicia, you said when you heard about it, you heard community excitement too. You know, look, man, it alone, so they plan to out a grant, so I love that. So I mean, I think this is kind of good. I mean, this is a good thing to move forward, to see, you know, as we continue to get information and see. Yeah, I mean, I think this is exactly what we're looking for.
And we'll be working with Crow, anything you all need from them once you go into, because we're gonna share a separate file with you guys as well. Anything you want.
The only thing I want to know, I know that the community that is excited, because these things, I get excited. It don't mean nothing to me being excited. I want individuals that are there to be excited and see that, you know, hey, this is a good thing. This is what we need. This is what we want.
I guess is the end.
Are either of the principals licensed pharmacists?
No, neither of the principals are licensed.
Did they had staff lined up? Like,
They have two.
what's that arrangement?
They have two LOIs, and it's in that file that have already signed on, as well as the part-time pharmacist that's actually on the proposal. But we've received two letters of intent to join their team from licensed pharmacists.
So on that, I reviewed what was on the drive a couple days ago or over the weekend. I have questions this stuff answers, but I didn't see it. When was this?
Today, right before this meeting.
All right, so that's why I didn't see it.
Yeah, and that'll be the way it's done every single time. These entities, their documents that really explain who they are, will not go into that folder until right before we present them to this committee.
Okay, so a couple things. They're at like 23rd and Market. Family Health Centers has another pharmacy at 25th and Market.
Mhm.
Is there any concern that, you know, there's too many within like a 2-block radius?
I would say because of the uniqueness of the services that they plan to provide, no. And also they've had the research done by U of L, and they have a marketing plan done that is in there. You can go look at it, and I don't think that as we know, pharmaceutical business is one of the largest businesses in this nation. I mean, you can't really have enough pharmacies, especially in underserved communities.
But we've had several close. So like if $1 billion company can't operate.
Well,
But,
again,
you know.
as she so eloquently put it earlier, bad management will close anything. So we can't, I don't know if you can just say, well, this is a good bet, simply on that risk that it may close, because anything can close.
So the profit and loss, I don't see any debt service, in there. So that may be something they want to look at if they've got the existing loans plus, the revenue required to service our loan.
Yeah.
So that would cut into, the margins.
Mhm.
And then the cash flow projections on this back page, with the gap between the insurance reimbursement and you know,
Yeah,
their
yeah, that couple of
outlay.
weeks that's there, yeah.
So, I mean, the gap is getting smaller, but it's not insignificant. It's over 30,000 a month.
Right.
What does that look like?
Well,
You know, if they're accumulating, you know, $30,000 deficit every month and, you know, like how much extra capital are they gonna need to keep running into cash flow?
well, as you said, it's decreasing every month. And the infusion of capital of 125,000 will mitigate a lot of that, right? So at that 6 months, I mean, they should be flowing pretty good. And then if there's another infusion from the partnership of $125,000, it's feasible to leave that float for the rest of that remaining of their first year.
I mean, my primary concern is that, you know, there's a whole lot on the expense side. I don't see any like marketing plan on how they're gonna, you know, achieve, go from 0 to 1.5 million in the first year.
Well, they have $100,000 award for marketing itself. So that getting the word out there that they're actually will help with that, as well as the relationships that they establish with those providers.
But, you know, they could be in a position where they run out of runway and, you know,
They could
have
be,
enough
but
cash.
that doesn't mean that they will. But they could be.
Michael, you may need to be a banker, do you? You may need to be a banker. Yeah, you're right. I mean, yeah, but you,
No, but
I mean,
they could be. That is a risk. Though,
but these are the economic opportunities that, like I said, man, this is why the partnership is here to, like, man, look, the bank, nah, man, we're not gonna take that kind of risk. But we have to take that. Look, man, I still want to, Crow's gonna look at this and look numbers, say, okay, hey, we'll know exactly, you know, kind of where they are. But I think that, you know, hey, no, there's probably going to be some question marks. But again, that's why these are investments. And you know what? The one thing that I love to hear about that is they are relentless.
Yeah.
And that really helps me because, you know, everybody had to get a start. And we definitely need to make sure that we are getting relentless business people throughout our communities that are committed and that are going to build our communities back to the way they used to be with businesses there. So, I mean, like I said, I appreciate all your questions because it's 100% from a financial standpoint. But I still think
Disbursement plan, were you guys looking at?
well, they're requesting a $250,000 capital infusion. They wanted that. What we recommend to them to consider $125,000 with oversight being provided as they hit those milestones for the first 6 months, and then another $125,000 after that. Now, if Crow still has to look at everything, they may come back and say, well, these guys can stand it up front, or maybe this should be smaller. But we wanted to be able to put something on the table that would be more feasible organization.
So be 2 installments, 125 each, 6 months apart.
Yes, yeah,
And this second one is conditional on whatever conditions.
whatever conditions this committee agrees upon.
I love it.
Doc, Gabe, you got any questions or any comments?
I really don't have much else to add. I mean, I was very in line with what was being discussed, particularly what Mike was saying on the tail end, just because so my partner actually sent me an article because there was one that was written in Health Affairs and published in December 2024 that said that more U.S. pharmacies had closed than open. And also that pharmacies specifically in Black and Latinx neighborhoods were most at risk. And so I just want us to be mindful of that, not in not considering them, but in making sure that we are increasingly putting them in a position to be successful, because the nature of what they are trying to do is extraordinarily difficult by itself. And also just for us to consider that, I mean, if worst case scenario, if we never saw a dime of this money back, would we be okay? And that's not that I don't expect them to be able to pay. But I think when we are confronting folks who are doing something that is very difficult, and that where they have an enhanced burden because of all the structural marginalization that has occurred, I think that is a consideration that we need to make. But I do think it's good for the community. I feel good about it. I feel excited about it. The people I know feel excited about it. Yeah, I just want to make sure we're putting them in a position to succeed.
I think for this committee, this is just moving it forward for another approval. And then there's still, Crow still looking at some numbers, so we'll get more information before we get to a final,
Yes.
approval and term.
I think there are a number of hopeful signs regarding this particular application. These young men have come in initially with a very detailed request. It is markedly different from requests we have had for over $1 million with no detail. These gentlemen, as soon as they approached us, the detail was on the table, and that is a good sign. That's a good risk.
And everything we've requested, they've ensured that they provided as
Very
well.
quick.
Yeah. And I
They're
believe,
giving all the signs of success. Plus, if you think about the location, the vital service that they're going to provide, and the unique feature of delivery, which used to be a part of pharmacies in West Louisville way back in the day, that is going to attract a great deal of attention. That's what sets them apart from the Krogers and the Walgreens and the North.
Let me say, Linda, look, I know this meeting started at 2, it's going on 4. Is there's questions, motion for the finance committee to approve this going to the full board for approval, and for Crow and for everybody to, continue to do the due diligence, to just keep it moving in the process.
So moved.
I got a motion. Is there a second?
And just to clarify, does this motion include that tiered level?
Right now-
the
Right
60?
now, this motion, I think, did the 125. What you
yeah, the recommendation has been put on the table.
Yeah, that's what's been on the table, but all that could change, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But yes, it does. It includes that the way that it is, but all that is still subject to what we go back to them with.
And also just a reminder that when they apply, they sign that criteria for eligibility, saying that they will comply with all issues. So that oversight we provided those first 6 months will be critical. And I think that it'll help mitigate some of the risk.
I still need a second though, if we're gonna move forward.
All reservations, but also.
Mike does second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. All right, so the motion carried. Hey, that's real good work. I appreciate it. The work that you've done.
I think the board should feel good about the support that we are getting in Cornerstone Engineering. The communication is constant and full. And we have a face-to-face meeting every other Friday, where
Yes.
Travis goes over every single detail.
And every other day in between, every other Friday.
Your partner.
You guys have.
The financial documents, we will need to get those back from everyone except, Crow.
I can pick it up. Take it home, put it on Facebook.
No.
Sorry. If there's no other stuff that needs to, anybody have any more information or anything? Is there motions to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Amen. Mike, you got my second? All right, meeting adjourned, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mention it, you provide them.